Hi, I'm Alan Smith. You know, to me, the holidays are about family, friends, and all that good food that's a part of the season. And that's what brings me here to beautiful Monmouth Plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. We're here to celebrate the best the winter garden has to offer, both in terms of beauty and bounty, just as they may have way back in the 1800s. So come on inside out of the cold and enjoy a feast for the eyes and the taste buds as we celebrate the holidays in Victorian style. Christmas is often a time when traditions from the past come alive. And a period of time from the past that I really enjoyed during the holidays is the 19th century, the Victorian period. Of course, it's become popular again, recognized as an era of beauty, elegance, and some might even say excess. Certainly one of the signatures of Victorian style is collecting. And when I think of great collections, I always think of my friend Carl Miller and his beautifully restored Victorian home, the Dibbrell House. Carl, thanks for having us and sharing all of this beauty here at holiday time. I know it's a crazy and busy season for you.
Well, it is, but I really am glad to have you over here, Alan. And as you know, I've been collecting for over 30 years. And all of the items on the table are things that I have collected for the Victorian period. My theory on collecting is that I don't want to have anything that is too expensive to use. In other words, everything that I collect, I use it.
Right.
And if it's too expensive, then I just let the museums have that, and I'll use something else. For instance, the china on the table, you'll notice it has the floral motif on it.
Yes, I see the beautiful iris and poppies and chrysanthemums.
All of my silverware is mostly silver plate here. This is the late 90s silver plate. The flatware is Columbia pattern from Rogers Company.
It really is beautiful. Now this actually dates to the period of the house.
That's right. 1893 is when that pattern came out, and that was part of the World's Columbian exhibition in Chicago, and that's when this house was built in 1893.
I see.
So that's why I have collected this particular pattern. All through the house, the furniture, all the decorative arts in the house, all the items that I have are of this, pretty much of this period. And they're mostly all American made, by the way.
There were lots of fantastic things created as well. For instance, these little whimsicals that we've done arrangements in on the table.
They were vases to hold little flowers to give some more warmth and homeliness to a table. And these were made in the 1880s. They were manufactured by, there's several companies made them, but these all are James W. Tufts of Boston.
These little vases or whimsicals were just another way for them to bring the garden indoors.
That's right.
Over the past 30 years of collecting, what other things have you found that allowed them to bring flowers and gardens into their lives?
Well, I have a lot of fancy vases and jardiniers and things that hold flowers, but one in particular is an orchid tree that I have that is green glass with these 8 horns that hold the orchids in place. And of course, with your orchid centerpiece here.
Well, I think it's holding up well, don't you?
I think it's wonderful, and I've never had one before. And I think having orchids for the table is just a fantastic thing.
Well, I'm happy to bring a first into this house. But I have to say these magnificent candlesticks and the shades are competition for the orchids.
Well, Alan, as you can see, these shades, candle shades, are glass beads on a wire frame with the tassels hanging down here, and then they ride on this holder, and as the candle burns, it slides down the candle. These candle shades certainly make a nice complement to the floral arrangement that you fixed for my house. I've never had, as I said before, I've never had orchids as a centerpiece before.
Well, they're both sort of over the top, so they fit this opulent table setting. You know, what's interesting about orchids is they were so popular in the 19th century, and they certainly would have been a part of a Victorian table setting.
Well, that's right.
There are actually two types of orchids, if you will, in this arrangement. I have cut orchids that are actually in tubes. Those large cattleyas are in tubes. And then the Phalaenopsis, I actually took them out of the pots, shook a little bit of the soil off of them, or ground bark, which they grow in, and put them in bags and tied a little rubber band around the base. Just makes it a lot easier to pack them into small spaces. And then I just filled in with Christmas greenery.
Well, it is beautiful, and I would not have thought of this, and I appreciate you doing it so much for me.
Well, you're welcome. My pleasure. You know, I was inspired to create this arrangement after a visit to Stewart Orchids in Natchez, Mississippi. And I recently had an opportunity to visit with the company's owners, Steve and Mary Jo McNerney, about the history of these plants. I guess the 19th century was a time of really frenzied collecting of orchids.
It was indeed, you know, not necessarily like the time a century before with the tulip craze that they went on.
Right, tulip mania.
Yes, yes, it
thousands and thousands of dollars paid for a single bulb.
For single bulbs, and orchids went through a very similar type of craze as well.
Of course, in the 19th century, I mean, people like George W. Vanderbilt at the Biltmore would have had lots of orchids, and orchids would have been a plant that probably only the wealthiest people had. But now that's really changed.
Well, it has changed, and it's pretty much just a function of supply and demand. It was not really until perhaps maybe the 1920s when different types of way of producing seeds and producing mass amounts of orchids came about, that the popularity actually even blossomed more. And everybody now is recognizing that orchids are a thing that even they can grow without having to have the budget that Vanderbilt might have had to grow them.
Stewart Orchids has been producing these beautifully exotic flowers for nearly a century, and its current owners recently moved the company from the glamorous Hollywood area to the muddy banks of the Mississippi.
The main reason we started looking into moving is that when we got the company 4 years ago, we did not own the property. And so when we looked into buying property where we were in California, it was exorbitant. And so our thought was to move to the middle of the country where our shipping will be easier, our utilities will be better, our costs will be a lot less than in California. And we just happened to be talking and saying, oh, let's move to Natchez. And we started looking at the weather patterns and everything, and it was, you know,
ideal.
Good for the orchids, absolutely. In California, there was a range due to the weather. You could grow some of the cooler growing ones easily, but here, the ones that will grow a lot faster because of the heat and humidity here in the area.
I bet they really respond to the warm nights that you can have in the south.
Absolutely.
It can get quite chilly in California at night.
Yes, it can. And that was another reason for coming to the south, because we'll have about 8 months out of the year where we won't have to heat, we won't have to cool, and the heat and humidity will be wonderful for the plants.
We'll experience the southern charm and hospitality of this Natchez plantation when we return. During the Victorian era, 1837 to 1901, Queen Victoria ruled Britain, and during that time, trend-setting style ruled the world. The 19th century is marked by excessive opulence and a keen eye for using everything imaginable to make a celebration memorable, and Christmas is no exception. For a look at how Americans during the late 1800s might have prepared a Victorian Christmas feast, I visited with my friend Regina Charbonneau. She's the general manager and chef de cuisine at Monmouth Plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. When you visit here, you really get a sense of the Old South, particularly at Christmas time.
Well, you know, I mean, of course I'm prejudiced, but Monmouth is such a special place. It's just reeks of hospitality. I mean, that really is, and it's sincere, it's not contrived, it's true Southern hospitality. I grew up in Natchez, and to come back to a property like this has been wonderful because it's coming home, but it also is, you know, I lived in San Francisco and New York, and it's of that caliber. I could be working in a major city and have a great property to be aligned with. Monmouth is now really much more than a bed and breakfast. Condé Nast just awarded us #4 Best Small Luxury Hotel in North America. We've been rated by Glamour magazine and USA Today one of the top 10 most romantic getaways in America. And it goes on, but we really pride ourselves each time giving that experience to each individual guest.
Well, tell us, what do you have in store for this Christmas feast you've laid on?
Well, this Christmas, because I love all of the natural ingredients and the trees and everything we have growing on property, in the decorations as well as the menu, I've tried to use a lot of our local ingredients. And I've put together a Victorian Christmas menu that reflects what you would have found in Natchez in those days. For example, the first course is oyster stew, and for years, even as I was growing up and years before that, New Orleans provided Natchez some spectacular ingredients. When you were looking for something a little more gourmet, of course, oysters would come from New Orleans. I've done a tomato aspic, which was very typical of a Victorian menu. But to give it a Natchez touch, I've done a kumquat and green tomato relish, which will cook. I'm going to give you the little insight on how to do that. And then the next course would be the roast turkey, and done with anchovies, which is a little different. It's an old French recipe, but was found in the Victorian days, and it really is wonderful taste. And then, of course, served with the turkey, you have sweet potatoes, which we'll do with the bourbon and brown sugar glaze. And then my favorite dessert this time of year, it's a cranberry gingerbread cake with a cinnamon chantilly cream. And you can't have Christmas in Natchez without Natchez eggnog. So we have that prepared as well.
What a treat.
So I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Oh, I can't wait. Regina, I've enjoyed your cookbook so much, and I can't imagine my kitchen without it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really great. And if anybody is interested in purchasing your cookbook, they can just log on to my website, and we have a link to yours.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, it's such a great resource.
And now I'm going to put you to the test. I'm going to take you out of the garden and put you in the kitchen with me to do these things.
Well, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Let's do it.
I'll help Regina prepare this sumptuous holiday feast right after this. Well, we're back at beautiful Monmouth Plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. Only this time we're in the kitchen. Regina, thank you for taking the time at this very busy time of year to share some of the recipes that are on that magnificent 19th century menu you've prepared.
Well, thanks. I've chosen a couple of easy things because it is a busy time of year, so we're going to do a couple of recipes from that menu.
Great. What are we going to start with?
Well, we're going to do one of my favorites. It's a kumquat and green tomato relish, and I put it over the tomato aspic, which you know.
Yeah, which is very Victorian.
But it's 4 ingredients, which is our common bond. We love things with 4 ingredients. We have sugar, kumquats, green tomato, and cider vinegar.
Sounds wonderful. Let's see how it all goes together.
Okay, it's really easy. It's the sugar and the kumquats.
How many kumquats go in?
It's a cup of cider vinegar, and then 3 cups of the green tomatoes.
3 cups of the tomatoes, I see. So after you stir it together, then what?
You just put it on the stove and you cook it down for 20 minutes until it reaches the syrupy stage.
Only 20 minutes?
That's all it should take.
Oh, wow. So with the tomato relish underway, what's next?
We're going to do sweet potatoes with bourbon and brown sugar. Another really easy recipe, but it will totally enhance your Christmas dinner.
Sounds wonderful. So what does it take to jump right in the middle of this sweet potato recipe, Regina?
Well, you take 4 cups of cooked sweet potatoes, and you take a cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 pound of butter, and a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon. And Alan, the 5th ingredient is behind you, the bourbon.
Oh, okay. Now that's what makes it a real Southern recipe.
That brings you right home to Natchez.
I guess it does. Now, you said a moment ago that you cook these sweet potatoes. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you just peel them and cut them in about 2-inch pieces, and you boil them in water until they're soft to the touch or with a fork. And you just put the butter in and brown sugar.
It's good.
And cinnamon gives it such a nice taste. I love the cinnamon with the bourbon.
And how much
And
the
just
bourbon?
a
I forgot
quarter,
what you
little
said.
quarter cup of the bourbon, and then we're going to cook. A little bit more. There you go.
More. Look at that. Wonderful.
And then we're going to put this on the stove and make a syrup to pour over the
Just on a
ends.
medium heat.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Wonder how our relish is coming.
We'll check that out.
Oh, this is looking good.
Oh, good. If you want to stir that and move it over for me,
All right, just over here.
I'll get the sauce for the sweet potatoes going.
Good.
Good.
Now, how many will this serve?
That makes a pint, and all the recipes I gave you serve 8 people.
I see. Great.
And do you want to have a little taste?
Oh, I'd
It's to
love
the
that, yeah.
perfect syrupy stage. Watch out, it might be a little hot.
Try it. That's great.
Now see what you'll do with that is this goes on the tomato aspic. So I take a silver tray and have the garnish it with bay leaves and put your individual aspics on the tray. And you can either do this in a bowl in the center or go ahead and spoon it over the top.
I see. That would be delicious on a lot of things. The flavors come together beautifully.
It's wonderful with grilled pork chops or pork roast. It's good with venison.
And just 4 ingredients.
That's it. So should we do the sweet potatoes?
Sure.
Do you want to
Yeah.
hand me the
Yeah.
yams? Our syrup's already ready.
Now, how long will you bake the sweet potatoes? Because they're already cooked.
You just bake that for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get them good and hot to serve with your dinner.
Now, don't go away. We'll see how the sweet potatoes turn out when we come back. Today, we're visiting with award-winning chef Regina Charbonneau at Monmouth Plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. Monmouth is an imposing antebellum mansion, and this magnificent inn sets a beautiful stage for a Victorian Christmas. Earlier in the show, Regina told us how this festive feast could easily have been prepared during the 19th century, using items grown locally and brought up the river from New Orleans. And then Regina put me to the test in the kitchen as we made her green tomato kumquat relish and sweet potatoes in bourbon brown sugar glaze. The sweet potatoes went into the oven just before the break. Let's see how they turned out. I can smell them. Oh, just look at that.
How about a taste?
Woo, piping hot. Just get a little bit right there. Those are good. Regina, this has been so much fun coming back to Monmouth and cooking with you again.
Oh, I've loved it. You know, as long as you always bring me something from your garden, you always have a place at my table at Monmouth, always.
It's a deal. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I got to try these sweet potatoes
Oh, have some
one more time. The garden is full of so much bounty for us to enjoy in every season. In today's show, we've sampled the past. We've seen how the foods of the season can be used to create the look, flavor, and feel of a Victorian Christmas. Regina Charbonneau inspired us with a beautiful holiday feast at Monmouth Plantation. We saw how 19th century table decorations invite the garden indoors, plus creative ways to use living orchids in an arrangement. Of course, the least of my concerns right now is the holiday menu. Right now, I'm worried about how to get this big tree in the house, but I'll figure that out later. Until next time, wishing you and yours the best of the holiday season. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
Accommodations provided by Monmouth Plantation, Natchez, Mississippi.
In this this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.